This is recording. Yes. You can see everyone's hyped. It's Monday, payday, beautiful day. Yeah, it's an exciting time to be alive, you guys. You see David with his beer. Yes.
Yes, you do. It's so tasty.
All right, you guys, I'm going to get started. So I would just ask, I would love for you guys to have your camera on. It's so valuable as someone who's speaking to be able to see and talk to you. So please turn your camera on. Keep yourself muted if possible. I'm going to do my best if there's any mishaps to take care of that. But I just want to really congratulate all of you for showing up. I know that even some of you are here and you're not even a part of Isagenix. And to you, I'm so proud. We just hit 100 participants. Congrats, you guys. I'm so proud of you for being here, for making time in your life, in your schedule to make this a priority. You will not be sorry that you turned up today. And I'm just so excited. You know, my intention is that you leave this call with David's help, with the leverage and the knowledge that he brings to be able to really take massive action and really feel at home and really have a knowledge and a certainty in why you're here and what this can do for you. So before I hand it over to him, I am going to do my best to introduce him. So today, it's a really exciting day for him because he launched 2 new things, you guys. So definitely, if you're not following him on Instagram, go and follow. There's a YouTube channel and another podcast. And for those of us who are a little OG in Isagenix, we know the value that he brings. So you definitely want to subscribe to those things and check them out. I saw an interview with Emily Vavra. You're all going to want to see that. So David is a business leader. He's an author, trainer, coach, a humanitarian, and has lived and traveled and worked in over 50 countries and brings his passion for people, culture, and the unknown to everything he does. As a business leader, he has grown multiple multi-million-dollar companies. As a trainer and speaker, he brings his global experience and deep understanding of the human condition to create some of the most dynamic, engaging, and fun and effective trainings and events. And I just want to chime in right there, you guys. I was blessed enough, and I know a couple of us on this call attended David Wood's Amplified Leadership Training in Las Vegas. And you know, if you ever have an opportunity to attend one of his events, hear him speak live, it will forever change your life, as it did for so many of us. We were literally sitting front row for 3 days, and the transformations that took place. And that's why I'm so excited for him to speak with you today. He has trained thousands and thousands of trainers, teachers, and educators, and has a goal to personally train 10,000 trainers. He is committed to delivering transformational work. So as a humanitarian, David is a spokesperson, fundraiser, and advocate for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and I know the ISA Foundation. And David will tell you, however, that his greatest accomplishment is being a dad to his 2 boys, Calvin and Ben. David Wood, welcome to our call.
I was watching the comments and they were saying how gorgeous you look, and it's so true. You look so gorgeous.
Oh
Everyone watching, if you think she's not radiant, or no, if you think she's radiant, just press number 1. Just number 1. Let's just show her. Look, here you go. Look.
I'm so glad I'm recording this.
Right, there you go. So if you ever need a little pick-me-up, just go there. By the way, it's over 100 countries, 103 countries that I've lived, traveled, and worked, not 50. So yeah, lots of travel, lots of experience, lots of people. And I really appreciate you talking about the launch today. Today's crazy. I did my first HGTV. I did my first Twitter. So I did something on Twitter. I mean, it's just like, because I really wanted to bring this, you know, and this time where so many people are at home is a time for pivoting. It's a time for connecting to something and changing what's going on in our lives previous to saying, hey, this is a time for us to really have time to develop ourselves or grow ourselves, expand ourselves, try a new track. And so for me, it was the same thing. I thought, you know what? I'm going to launch a new show, and boom, here it is. It just launched today. So it's so exciting.
So we're so happy that you're back and actively doing something like that, where we can come and take, you know, all the goodness that you provide. So, you know, let's start with a foundation. Why, just briefly, what is personal development and what has it done for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I didn't do my first personal development program. It was in 1991. I hadn't ever heard of it. I grew up I grew up in England. I grew up in a what do you call a condemned building, when I grew up in poverty, but even by Western standards, I always say, if you have a fridge, that's not poverty. And we had 4 of us in 3 beds. So, every third night I had to sleep with my mom in a single bed. It was the worst possible thing that a young boy has to ever do, is be forced, and so we were in this condemned building. So, it was, I never heard about personal development. All the people I knew, no one read books. No one talked about dreams and goals. All 3 of my siblings worked at the same factory. My mom worked at the same factory. So, it was just this idea that I would go and work and the factory was making car parts for diesel engines. And so that was going to be the destiny of my life, was that to follow this path, and so, personal development came along, and I remember I went to this 2.5-day program as part of a network marketing company. And part of the program, they asked us to read the book, Think and Grow Rich. In fact, they asked us to read it in the program. So you had to read a chapter. So everyone sat down quietly and everyone read the same chapter. And then people had to get up, and you were forced to get up. It wasn't like you chose to get up. And that was shattering for most of us. It was like, I'd never spoken in front of a room before. And we were asked to get up and talk in front of a room about what we thought about the chapter. But Think and Grow Rich. And I'm thinking, really? You mean if I could change and remember at the time I was earning $4 an hour as a dishwasher in a restaurant not very far from here where I live right now. And now this restaurant is a chain of restaurants. It was only one at the time. And the owner is a really good friend of mine, Reg Henry. And it's just like, oh my gosh, if I hadn't read that book, if I hadn't entered into the world of network marketing, which is, a lot of people call it a personal development program with a compensation plan attached. And that's how I see it, and you know me. So, you've done the work, you've been around, and I can tell by your presence, right? It's, your wealth can only grow to the extent you grow yourself. I knew none of this. In 91, I was a backpacker. I'd been backpacking for 10.5 years, 42 countries I'd lived for 10.5 years out of a backpack. That's all I had. Everything I owned was in a backpack. I hadn't owned a car, right? So to sort of step into this world and say, okay, is it true that we can truly create what we want if we change our thinking? Well, it's not true. There has to be other things involved. There has to be 3 components. And this is what's interesting. So, by the way, if you're listening right now and you're not in Isogenics, please, everyone has to choose a path. So hopefully I can give you value whether you choose this or not. And I really want you to listen to me. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not in the convincing business. Neither one of us are, right? But the idea, though, is that you have to have these 3 things: the right vehicle at the right time with the right you. And if you get those 3 things right, the right vehicle, the right time, the right you, then, you can create whatever you want. And the right vehicle for me right now, look at it. We've had the greatest week in our history. Some of our leaders right now have had, I was just talking to one of our leaders yesterday. She said she had the biggest week in 11 years. We're talking about coronavirus. Everyone's locked in. The rest of the world is reeling and everyone's saying, oh my gosh, this is the time of like sadness or, whatever. And here we are flourishing, right? Right vehicle, right time. There's never been a greater time in history for health, because even millennials or Gen X or us old buggers, right? I'm 60, and guess what? I want to be in the greatest shape of my life. So if you're an old person, old like me, because I used to think 60 was old. And it's so funny. I'll tell you a funny story. I always said, when I get to 60, I'm going to buy a Harley because I want to be a really cool granddad. And I always thought 60 was going to be this old man. And now I got to 60. I just bought a Harley yesterday. And I'm like, oh my God, here I am at 60 thinking this is old. And I feel so young and vibrant. Anyway, I've been yak. Back to you.
No, I love it. I think this is so great. So let's talk about how you got started in Isogenics, because I want to reiterate, you're not paid to take your time out of your life right now to do this with us. This isn't part of anything other than your servant leadership in your heart. So can you take us back to that moment and what you saw? I've heard this story and I want everyone to hear, when you really got to see the Cougars and why you decided to partner with Isogenics.
Sure. Back to the new person. I'm going to keep talking to you because you're the most important person on the call, because you haven't drunk the Kool-Aid yet.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to think we're all nuts because we're so happy. Just notice she wasn't reading the question. Notice the questions coming spontaneously from her heart. That's important to notice, because otherwise it's contrived. It's just two people having a conversation. You guys get to witness this. So I want you to notice those subtleties that, you know, this is like, you know, it's important that you see that this is just two people conversing. So if I take you back 15 years ago, I'd already been the president and CEO of a network marketing company. I entered network marketing. It changed my life. I was terrible at it. I was the worst network marketer because, you know, I did have charisma. I did have, because I used to tell jokes. I grew up in, you know, in pubs in England. I started working behind the bar when I was 15. Behind a bar, because we didn't have ID in England. There was no picture ID. So imagine me pouring pints at 15 years of age, right? So I developed this ability to connect and talk. And in England, we have a very kind of great sort of sense of humor. So I was, you know, like funny, blah, 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 right? So, you know, if you look at, I go back to when I first met Jim and Kathy. Oh my gosh. I was the president of a network marketing company. I'd heard about these two people in retirement, and they were in retirement. And here I am thinking these two would be perfect as our #1 leaders in our company. So I approached them to sign up as our leaders, and they looked at it. They actually had a good look. And Jim was so lovely, and Kathy was so lovely, right? And so I sent them all of our stuff. They looked at it all. But when Jim said no to me, he phoned me. Listen to this. This is how we met. He says, listen, Dave, and he said no in such a gorgeous way. It's like he put me in a bubble bath and washed me. You know how some no's sting and they hurt for the rest of your life? This was a no that was like, oh my God, how good is this person? I didn't know him very well, but the no was so elegant and noble and beautiful, right? And what they said is they found something that they think they believed they were going to dedicate the rest of their life to. So fast forward 5 more years, 5 years later, I'm now working with a company called Peak Potentials, and I'm a personal development trainer. I'm earning $150,000 a weekend teaching personal development, and I think I've hit pay dirt. I think I've hit gold, right? And one day, Kathy Coover is sitting in the front row. She'd heard about me. I was in Atlanta, Georgia. She's sitting in the front row, and she asked if she could meet with me. And so we went up into my suite, and we sat and talked for about 3 or 4 hours. And she had talked to me about bringing personal development into ICGenics. And ICGenics was only a couple of years old, 3 years old, whatever. And I told her that I'd been doing this personal development stuff for about 3 years. And I was watching people come back, and I was horrified that the programs were so good, but I wasn't seeing their lives transform. They were going back into their lives, and they had negative jobs, negative relationships. They had no vehicle. And so I realized that this is where I got this concept, right vehicle, right time, right you. And so I said to her, I said, look, I'll partner with you because I truly believe in you, right? And because she came across so authentically, and I'd already dealt with them, and I'd heard how they delivered a no. And so I had this kind of reminder in my heart that these were good people. They didn't just say, hey, buddy, we got us. They were really careful how they delivered it. They were elegant with it, right? But still, when I said I'd come on board, which I did, it was 3 months. I watched them because I thought, I'm not going to hang my hat on this particular hook if these guys are fake in any way, if they're going down the wrong, if this is all about money, it's not about people. Because one thing I'd already learned in my life was that, you know, people and money, you can do both, but the emphasis has to be on people. It can't just be on money. It has to be on people first. The money will come. If you serve enough people, if you help enough people, if you give enough, the money will come, but you can't just be money oriented. And I wasn't sure yet, right? Because they're American and I'm Canadian. So they were still a little bit like, you know, American. You know, you're Hawaii. I mean, you guys are from Hawaii, right? But you're not like, you know what I'm talking about. There can be that stereotypical American kind of thing, which is kind of awesome, right? And I didn't know if I trusted it quite yet. So I watched them. And the day I decided to really hook my wagon on their wagon was the day I'd been in the boardroom all day with Kathy. I'd watched her run the company. I watched Jim. And then we went home to their house. And she's a gourmet chef. And she cooked dinner for her, me, and Eric. And I watched them sit down as a family. And we were in this little tiny round table. It wasn't this ostentatious table. It was just this little tiny round table in their kitchen. And the food was delicious. And I was listening to the conversation and how they were talking to each other. And I thought, oh my gosh, these are the real deal. If you can sit in someone's home and you can feel that connected and you can feel that, that love and the respect and the gentleness in a conversation. Yeah, I'd watched them all day running what was going to be a multi-billion-dollar company, and they were hustling all day, and coming home and taking that time to be a real family and talk about things like a real family, and there was nothing fake about it. And I'm like, I'm all in. And so and this is what some of you have to decide today, really, because some of you are half in, some of you have a foot in, some have a toe in. You can't go anywhere in life if you're half in. You just can't. You just can't. If you decide to go all in and you give the whole of yourself to something, you're going to discover something that a lot of you have never discovered. Because even when we have jobs, we kind of do it because we have to. We do it because we get paid. Some of us are not all in our jobs. In relationships, I watch people and they're not all in their relationships. You see them with their partner, and then you watch them when they're alone. They talk about their partner in such ways, you're like, oh, this person's not all in. But the idea of jumping all in with both feet, it's so sexy because it's certainty, and certainty is really, really, really sexy. And it becomes this magnetic thing that attracts. People are attracted to certainty. And a lot of you, if you want to have freedom, if you want to create the life of your dreams, then get into a level of certainty, make a decision, jump all in, and then stay the course. You can't kind of like, I'm all in for the week. That ain't going to work.
Oh, I love this. I want to piggyback off that statement because it's something that, I've heard you say over the years, which is certainty is sexy. So speaking to that new person, and I will say the majority of these 100 people, for those who are in, have been in less than a year. So, and are having, like, our team is growing exponentially. It's just incredible. Like you said, the timing and the right everything right now. But going back to that, certainty is sexy. So how would a new person transition? I mean, when they're hearing that, what is that? What do they need to do for that? What does that look like for them?
First of all, let's talk about Marcy's comment, bringing sexy back. Marcy. Way to go, Marcy. Look, listen, new person. I mean, listen, look at your life. The only reason you're here is because you wouldn't be on this call if you weren't looking for something. If your life was absolutely and I talk about all areas, relationships, your health, finances, right? Adventure. You look at the whole package and you say, look, because I always believe in a life by design, is you can have it all. But to have it all, you have to earn it all. You can't just, like in a relationship, you can't be somebody who's flaky in a relationship. If you're a gossiper, you'll never have great relationships. You'll never have what you really want. Because if you talk about people behind their backs, right, then, no one's ever going to really feel that you're there and you have their back. And people want to feel that. They want to know that you're there and you're solid. And when you start doing that, I love the word honor. If you have honor, and that's what I love to sort of teach about, is for men is to have honor, right? Like my ex-wife and I are best friends, right? And she was just here yesterday for Mother's Day. So I made dinner for her and my son, his girlfriend, right? But I mean, the idea is honor. We've been separated 15 years. And my girlfriend and her are great friends. My ex-girlfriend and her, they celebrate. So the idea is that honor is a thing that you can see. It's palatable because you can see all the relationships. And if you meet someone, and again, this is no judgment on you. If you're having this go on, we can change it. But if you're like, you've been in a relationship and you're talking poorly about the person you were with, I want to remind you that at one point you loved them. And every time they walked in the room, your heart would thump in your chest and you couldn't think straight. And now they're an asshole, right? That's the stuff that I don't get. It's just like, guess what? If you could just stop, because you've got hurt, your heart got hurt a little bit, right? And so now we have the opportunity to live in a world where we can be in love, we can break up, we can have honor, and we can stay in love. So what I say to my boys is I get to love their mother for the rest of their life in this unique way. Right? And if any woman entered my life that didn't accept that, then that woman couldn't be in my life because I've already chosen to have honor with my ex-wife, Pam. I'll call her Pam. And so the idea is I live by a code. The code is that Pam is definitely central. and the person I'm with, so if you're in a world where you've got this thing where you're hating or you're talking about or you're gossiping about the person you're with, guess what's happening? You're eroding the very foundation of what's beautiful about life. Because if you go back and think, oh my God, what are the 5 things? That's why when I coach people, what are the 5 things you loved about them? Or what are the 5 great things? If you could, even if you're ex-husband, or tell me, and everyone has a few things. I'll say, tell me 3 things you love about your ex. And they'll say, well, he's a great dad. I say, well, just think about that. Every time you think of him, just say, oh my God, he's a great dad. He's a great dad. And if you hear any of the other noise, how he hurt you, what he did, blah, 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 none of that serves you, because our inner world creates our outer world. What we think on the inside, it will show up on the outside. So if we're bitter, if we're angry, if we're upset, if we're all the dark energies, is like drinking poison, expecting them to die. So the idea is that we have to really manage the inside. So going back to the question, if I can remember it, right? Going back to the question, right? So a new person, right? So how do you do it? How do you create it? Right? Look at the world you're in. Look at the world you're in right now, and just ask the question: do you have it all? Do you have the great relationships? Do you have the great, healthy? You don't have to have a great body, but you have to have a body you love. If you've got curves, if you love the curves, it's great. If you hate the curves, there's something going on, because you don't want to be walking around in a body you hate. Because guess what you do is you're transmitting this energy again, a low energy frequency, right? Your bank account, what's it like? How are you doing financially? If you can't answer these questions and you can't get everything you want, then you've got to start thinking, well, how do I? Well, there are four elements. One is your environment. And what's beautiful about you new people, even if you haven't said yes to Isogenics yet, look at what we're talking about. Look what we're not talking about COVID-19, and we're not talking about the problems in the world, right? We're talking about positive, light, beautiful energy kind of stuff. I'm not woo-woo. I'm a kind of real straight shooter. So I may sound a bit woo-woo right now, right? So what are we talking about? So you new people, right? When you look at this and you start saying, okay, if I want to have again, it may not be millions of dollars, but at least financially you're okay. You're not worried, you're not frightened, you're not scared, all those things. You have enough or more than enough. Then you've got to get in the right vehicle, right time. But go back, environment. You say yes to the right environment. Surround yourself with great people. And what happened to me, it was accidental. I left England when I was 20, and I mean, everyone I knew was drunk, high, either getting high, stoned, drunk, stealing, lying, cheating from the government. That's all I knew. That's the world I grew up in. But then when you get around other people and they have this wonderful, the way that, I mean, look what you talk about, vision boards and dreams and goals and possibility. I mean, all the words that come out of your mouth naturally. That's why you're so radiant, right? Then that's the environment. The environment leads to how we think, and our thoughts are everything. Our inner world creates our outer world. If we've got negative thoughts, we have a negative life. If we don't trust people, people don't trust us. If we're judgmental of ourselves, we judge other people. They judge us. So whatever we do inside will manifest on the outside, and that's the world. So we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. So the beautiful thing about our culture is that we get to grow ourselves in an environment so we can find the best possible version of ourselves and fall in love not only with ourselves, but with our authentic self, right? So this idea about being completely authentic, right? So environment leads to thoughts. Thoughts lead to feelings. Feelings lead to actions. And our actions lead to results. And our thoughts, feelings, and actions around anything. So if you're talking about money, we have a money blueprint. The way we think about money, the way we feel about money, and the actions we take around money is our blueprint. Relationships, how we think about a relationship, how we feel about a relationship, and the actions we take is our blueprint for relationship. So if you've got hurt, or your parents always fighting, and you find that you're kind of duplicating that, again, go back to the environment. How do you change the environment to change the thoughts and feelings? And then you're going to change the actions to get the results you want. And here's the beauty about results. Results never, ever lie. When you look in the bank, there's money or no money. You look at the credit cards, they're maxed out or they're not. You look at your body when you're naked, you either go, damn, or you're like, oh shit, cover that thing up, right? So those results never, ever lie. So we get to sort of just look at the results and say, what do I want? And if you're not getting the results you want, go back to the environment. So this is why this environment is so cool because look what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a long tirade, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh, no, we're here for it. This is amazing. Thank you. So good. So I want to come back to something you touched on, which was belief. And I know you talk about the 5 or 6 areas of belief. 6, yeah. So can you touch on those and again explain to us, why does that matter? We could be doing the right things, we could have the skills and etc., but why does it matter what we believe?
Well, beliefs are, it's like, when you believe, you're believable, right? And so there, if you understand how the brain works, this is really important that we understand how the brain works. There's 2 parts to us, right? There's our subconscious, non-conscious, whatever we want to call it, right, mind. And then there's the conscious mind. And the little voice in our head, that little voice we hear all the time. And the guy that just thought, I don't have a little voice. That's the little voice I'm talking about. The one that just spoke to you right there. That little voice. The little voice comes from condition. That's the conditioned mind. So depending on the world we grew up in, whether we were bullied or what happened in our home, the things we heard, the things we saw, the things we experienced. And those things create our conditioning. And if we understand how the brain works, right? So you can walk up to someone, and you've all had it happen, where you get a strange feeling. You don't trust them immediately. There's this heebie-jeebie kind of thing, or someone's trying to sell you something and you kind of feel like you need to go and have a shower afterwards. Or you're walking down the street and you get a sense and you're not sure what it is, but that's the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind processes 4 billion with a B, 4 billion bits of information every second. Wow. Your conscious brain is 2,000 bits of information every second. And the conscious brain is that thing, conditioning. The non-conscious brain is the thing, is like, look right now, you're sitting here, hairs are growing in your body, for some of you in places you don't want. Your liver's doing its thing, your kidneys are doing its thing, your heart is thumping 100,000 times a day. None of it you're conscious of. You're not sitting there thinking, oh my God, my heart's beating. Well, unless it's out of rhythm, then you're feeling it, right? Or you got hypertension. But the idea is all these things, magical things are happening. Your body's running in this non-conscious frame. So what happens about belief? If you don't believe, and a lot of you don't believe in network marketing. It's not that you don't believe in network marketing, it's that you've tried it in a half-assed way, most of you, dabbling half a foot in, and people have rejected you, and now you're questioning yourself. Or someone said, oh, that's a pyramid. Really? Do you understand what a pyramid is? White-collar crime right now is one of the things. If you commit a white-collar crime, you're going to go to jail for a lot of years. So Bernie Madoff committed a white-collar crime. And a pyramid is a statute of a white-collar crime, right? So if Jim and Kathy were running a pyramid, they would be in jail for dozens and dozens and dozens of years. Bernie Madoff went to jail for 135 years for a white-collar crime. So the idea is, we this whole idea about belief, right? So when we believe, we emit an energy that someone's non-conscious brain will pick up on. And even if we say the wrong thing, they're going to say, I don't know what the hell you just said, but I get you believe this. Because their non-conscious brain is going to pick up your integrity, your authenticity, your belief, all of those things. So if we're like kind of, I don't really believe in network marketing, all you have to do is look in the mirror and say, guess what? I actually haven't studied it. I haven't worked at it. I haven't committed to it. I haven't stepped over the line and say, yes, I'm proud. Look at my eyes. I am so proud to be a network marketer. And I, in my profession, as a trainer, the level I am, could work on any stage in the world. And I choose this because I know that if tonight one of you gets impacted, you could build a global team that could impact hundreds of thousands of lives, because we have the right vehicle at the right time. And if we can get you to just think straight and treat this like a real profession, oh my gosh. And also you can start to design an incredible life. And look, you talked about me launching my show today. It's called The Extra Mile, Conversations with David T.S. Go and listen to the first 2 shows with Emily Vavra. When I met Emily, she was terrified. She came to my first event. She wouldn't pick up the microphone. She was scared. She was crying. She was a mess because she didn't believe in herself. Look at her today. We're talking about just a few years later, 11 years later, she's like this powerhouse in the world. Why? Because she's in the right vehicle at the right time with the right mindset. Right?
Oh, so good. Yes, so fired up. Okay, so I just love that. So let's talk about that. Talk about, you know, the transformation and you know, seeing people go, and some people come into this right vehicle at the right time and they just shoot out of the gates and they just, you know, blaze a trail, while others, it might take them a little bit longer and they might think, am I doing the right thing? Is this really for me? And maybe they're thinking, don't realize they're thinking short-term versus the long-term money, right? Which is what Isagenix really is. What do you say to the person who's comparing themselves, who's looking around saying, I don't know if I can do this. I'm only making X amount of money because Isagenix stacks cash. Like, we have the most incredible compensation plan. And I think sometimes people get really caught up in only making a certain amount. So would you mind touching on that?
Yeah, there's so many great questions all wrapped in a one there, right? I mean, look, the thing that when you sort of look at this profession, some people come in and they explode. But then you look at their history and you're going to see that they were in a profession previously that taught them some of the skills needed for this profession: connecting, conversation, or, you know, the fact that they were really masters at communication, or that they've been in network marketing before. Because if you look at Lynn Hagedorn, for example, who's our #1 income earner, she'd already been in the profession for 12 or 13 or 14 years and was already a master at the skills. So when she came here, a lot of people thought she brought people with her. She didn't. She just went to work, but because she'd built the skills, right? And so any of you right now, you think about your current profession, if you have one, if you went to college, if you're an electrician or a plumber or a nurse or a teacher, what's going to happen is you went to school for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. If you're a doctor, maybe 8 years to learn your profession. And then I always ask people, how long did it take you before you were really competent? And teachers will say another 2 years. So that's 6 years to get confident as a teacher. My friend Ben, the first time he went in front of a classroom, he was terrified. He had learned teaching, but he never learned how to talk to kids from the front of the room. And it took him about 3 years to become comfortable in front of that situation. So I do think that there's why some people explode is sometimes history. And some of you, if you have a lack of self-confidence, or if again, if you're really, plagued by the mind, in other words, your mind is always comparing and judging and whatever, it's going to take you longer, because you're going to have to immerse yourself in personal development. You're going to have to correct the mind, right vehicle, right time, right you. The right you is really, and that's what we get to do. This is what this call's about. Why would I give my time up tonight? It's a beautiful, gorgeous evening here, right? Why wouldn't I be out on the boat and not doing this? Because I know if one of you gets this piece, oh my gosh, if I'm in the right vehicle at the right time, I just got to do some work, and I've just got to keep moving forward. And look, think about your kids, think about your grandkids, think about any one of them. Let's say you see a piano behind me. Imagine they were playing piano, and the first time they go to the piano, imagine they're sitting there and it's so scary, and then they have to start to learn to play. And it's like dang, 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 jingle bells, right? And then they play and they play and they play, and they have a teacher and a mentor, and they play and they play and they practice and they get frustrated. And then what they do, right? And so what happens with network marketing, if we treat it the same way, if we treat it like anything of learning, that we are going to get better with time, but we're going to be terrible in the beginning. And one of my sayings I use all the time, you hear it all the time, every master was once a disaster. If you can allow yourself to be a disaster, and if you can allow yourself to be a mess long enough, you will start to master this, and you will start to have everything you want. And remember, we get paid not for products. I'm sorry, not for people. We get paid for the consumption of the products that people use. So that's how we get paid. So, and the more people we help, the more money we can make. But then it's residual. So let me give you this mindset thing. I've been using these products for just shy of 16 years. I started using these products a full year before I met Kathy at that event. I was a secret agent because I was a personal development trainer who loved these products, but I didn't tell anyone I was using them, okay? 16 years ago, someone talked to me, right? And they're still getting paid because I still buy these products every single month. And I buy it for my sons. I have 2 sons, right? My ex-wife comes up here and she helps herself to the fridge, right? And so the idea here is, and I'd love to go and show you, maybe I'll take the camera and show you my pantry. Then you'll start seeing how much I believe in these products, because they are embedded in my soul. I wouldn't go a day without them, right? So imagine that 16 years ago, this guy had a conversation and he's still getting paid today every month. And sometimes I order 400 or 500 BV for you new people. That's like currency, business volume, right? It's crazy to think that he had the conversation 16 years ago and he's still getting paid. That's why our profession is so cool, right? Residual income.
So cool. So cool. I love it. Yes. And this is, I mean, the compensation plan that we have is just incredible. And I know you know that as a businessman and as someone who's worked in the profession. Can you just touch on, you know, Jim and the geniusness in this compensation plan?
Well, listen, and you have to understand, I've been around the profession a long time. So a lot of years, I was the president of a company. So I understand it. I can go, and I do. I mean, I train all over the world, in Europe, Holland, England, Spain, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, all over the world. I walk in front of a room. I don't care how many people are there. And I say, how many of you have made money? And all the hands, I mean, people's hands, like if I could ask everyone here, put your hand up if you made some money. And put your hand up if you made residual. In other words, you did the work last month and someone's on order ship, reordered, and you've experienced, you know, let me just flick over so I can see. Put your hand up. Yeah, look, put your hand up if you made residual income at all. Any one of you. There you go. Thank you, Marcy. Your hand was down there for a second. All right. So the idea is, it's like that's the genius. The genius is that there's the early money, the money to get you started, the money to sort of get that product for free. Because what you want to do is move people along. But the problem and the challenge that some of you have, and it's a bit of a disease, it's actually what makes our profession so bad, right? Is that we don't have to go to school. We can sign up on Tuesday, and Tuesday night we can talk to our mother. And because we're so crappy at network marketing, we have a crappy conversation, but we expect her to join us. I don't know why, because if you were a plumber, you wouldn't expect your mother to become a plumber. But because we're network marketers, somehow we expect our family to somehow join, even if they're overweight. So, oh yeah, you know, my brother should, if we stop all that nonsense, right? Because, and it really is the disease we have, right? Is that we expect that. But so there's people who are mostly customers. 85% of our teams are going to be made up of customers. And then we're going to have the customers who share. In other words, they may share with a few people. They're not interested in this as a business, but they may be interested in this just to get some free product. And if they do that, they're still a customer who wants to get a few bonuses, but we still want them to build. So we still have this energy of treating them as if they're a network marketer, and they're not. They're a customer who loves our products and doesn't mind sharing it with a couple of people. And there's skill sets that we can develop to help that person stay a customer. We treat them like a customer, right? And then there's most of people are super part-time. This is like, you know, part-time income. And what's amazing is, and some of you want to quit your jobs too quickly, you know, because if you're making as much in your part-time income as you are in your full-time income, let's say you're a nurse, and yet your income in Isogenics matches your nursing income, and you stay in your nursing job for another 1 or 2 years, oh my goodness, it is like bad. You want to attract people? Tell them how much you make in your part-time business, your online business, where you, and really this, if you think about how much time you could commit, 15 hours a week. If you could commit 15 hours a week, 1 Saturday a month, and 1 weekend a quarter, you can build a dynasty and create absolute financial freedom. But those 15 hours have to be doing the right things, right? So.
Oh my goodness, this is just so great. Okay, so let's talk about piggybacking on that. So connecting. And this can be really scary for people. And I think learning from you, this has helped me. I mean, I've talked with and enrolled so many people on a plane, just that I met my mechanic, you know, right away. And when I really shifted my mindset to thinking, gosh, you know, it's not just who I know, it's who I'm going to meet. Who am I going to meet today? I could bless someone with this. How would someone start? I know probably exactly what you're going to say, but how would someone
start?
Go on,
tell me what I'm going to say.
You're going to say it starts with hello. right?
Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right.
So,
Yeah, good.
so how do people start to connect outside their circle? And also,
Well,
you know, I want to, well, let's just go there first.
well, ask that other question just in case we forget it. What was the other one?
Okay. So I want to know too, like, the importance of really how crucial it can be to really learn and meet other people, because I personally was raised by a mum who was literally raised over the world, all over the world. I've traveled a lot, I've met a lot of people, and I find that that really helps me to connect. So can you talk about, and I know that's something
Yeah. This is so good.
you know,
Look, you know, and it's such a great question. Again, you have great questions. You're a great interviewer. I just want to make sure. Let's give her, everyone, let's give her a round of applause. Come on. Look, connecting is if you took away network marketing, she is amazing, by the way. I didn't see whose name that was. Type it again so I can say your name. But Meredith, thanks. So, you know, connecting is not about isogenics. Connecting is about humanity. Connecting is about being a person. Connecting is, you know, we all have this deep yearning to be connected, you know, and when you think about that last breath you ever take on earth, you know, what goes through your mind is the relationships. You think about it, 9/11, when the planes crashed into New York, right? What were people doing? They knew they were going to die. They picked up the phone, and the last words they said was, "I love you." That was it. You know, and so I always try and think about, I get goosebumps even thinking about it, right? Is that the last words you're going to say is, "I love you." And so how about you practice loving? I just love people, all people. It doesn't matter. Big people, small people, skinny people, smelly people, ugly people. It doesn't matter. But people are fascinating. And I think if you start to practice, and you can practice without even talking about isogenics, go out tomorrow and just say hello to more people. And then ask open-ended questions, you know, without trying. Yes, thank you, Meredith. Is be interested, not interesting. But just really connect with people and watch what happens. Because what I found is everyone is gorgeous on the inside. Everyone. And they may not act it on the outside sometimes because they've had a harder life, or they're, you know, they're suspicious, or they're, you know, distrusting, or whatever it is. But what I found is that when you look into someone and you are interested in them and you just talk to them, so if you, whether you're an elevator or whatever, isogenics can come, but building the muscle of connection is fascination, curiosity, you know, asking questions where you get talking and finding common ground. The most important thing, and this is where, you know, one of the things I love to do, I have a lot of hobbies, a lot. And so, and I love to do new things. So if you ask me, any of you are on the call right now, you texted me, you said, "Hey Dave, do you want to go and do this?" It may be something I've never done before. The answer I'm going to give you is yes. Why? Because I've never done it. But when I've done it once, guess what I have? I have a new conversation to have. So if I meet someone, let's say it's kite surfing. So I talked to someone yesterday about kite surfing. Now, I've never gone kite surfing on the water, but I did have a kite one time on the land. So I can talk about it a little tiny bit. But I remember being pulled off my feet and dragged across the lawn, right? So the idea, though, is the more things you try, the more things you have in common. So one of the things, the way to build yourself into becoming somebody who has, you know, wonderful conversations is just say yes to more things. And also make the things you do currently. So for example, you got to eat every day. And a lot of you are locked in your homes, whatever. I call it solitude, not isolation. I choose to be in solitude, and I'm loving it. I got to be honest. I'm loving this thing to death. It's awesome. Look at us. Well, people from all around the world, and I'm sitting here in my living room having a chat with you guys, right? So the idea here is that, you know, you got to cook every day. So why not just make it fun? Why not tomorrow? Why not go and make a meal that you've never made before and practice it? Do a recipe 5 or 6 times so that at the end of the month, you're like, "Oh my God, I'm so good at lamb because I did this lamb recipe." And then when people come over, you make it, and people are, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." So you got to do it. So what I always say is, even the crappy things you don't want to do, if you do them with passion, then what happens is you have these conversations and it becomes this rich connection with people because you have this energy you emit because you love life. And because you are, even the things you don't really love, you're still going to do them. So why not love doing them so that you know, that it becomes easier when you're loving it. It's not so hard as, "Oh God, I got to make the bed." It's like, I love making my bed because I love people walking in the bedroom. It's like, "Oh my God, the bedroom looks so great." It's just one of those things, right?
So good. Love it. Going off of that, I want to talk about a video that is no longer available, but I watched it multiple times, I think in my first year. And it was you sharing from stage your story about Mount Kilimanjaro. And you talked about in that, just going off of what you said, make it fun. And I remember you saying specifically in that, I think there were certain groups and your group made it fun. And you were saying you guys were chanting and singing, but there were other groups that were not. Can you talk about, I mean, because, you know, from my perspective, you're someone who has a lot of fun and doesn't take yourself seriously. Can you talk about why that matters, how you can build community and fun?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the Kilimanjaro trip, there were 2 teams of 11. So I led one. There was another team. And, you know, it took a while. It didn't connect right away. And we had, you know, 11 different people. A few of us knew each other. I had a couple of, or maybe 3 ICGenics people on my team that I invited. Warren Lance was one of them, if you know him, and Arlene. But, you know, after the first day when I saw the chaos, we had a chaotic team, right? And there was one lady there that was almost 70 that lived in New York that had never hiked before. I interviewed her on my show. Her name is Dr. Judy Herensky, and she's like a sex therapist who's like, she never even took a walk to city block. She'd take a taxi. So here she is. She bought all new equipment. So it was a bit of a gong show. But when we pulled the team together, and that's what you're doing beautifully, you know, when you're a part of a team, sometimes you're in the front and sometimes you're in your back. And so what I did is I led this team from behind. I was always at the back. And I had these 3 young kids, and 2 of them were full of, can I say piss and vinegar? They were like, you know, they wanted, and you know, when you're on a mountain, it's 19,374 feet. And, you know, Sir Edmund Hillary, who's the first guy to climb Everest, you know, he talks about, you know, everyone hits the impossible step. There's a moment on a mountain where you have to face the impossible. It happened to me. It happened to everyone on our team. But the thing with altitude sickness, if you walk too fast in the beginning, as you get higher, you know, there's this thing that can happen, which is, you know, altitude sickness. And so what I realized is that to lead this team, I had to attempt to get these young people to be invested in helping. So I sat down the first night with these 2 guys and I said, can I ask you a favor? Because they were right in the front. They were like a mile ahead of everyone. They weren't thinking in team. I said, is there any way you could just come to the back with me and hike from behind and just be with me just for the first morning or the second morning? They're like, sure. All right, so they're there. And now at the back, guess what they got to do? They got to help people. When Judy's pack broke or something was wrong or something was heavy, they just got to help. And I watched this transformation as these young kids were actually helping someone and listening and watching and being able to contribute in a way they hadn't before. I'm getting goosebumps even saying this, right? They started to want to be at the back, not at the front. And so everyone started to hike at the speed of the slowest person in our team, which was Judy. And we did everything to help. And guess what? All 11, and you have to understand, in a 5.5-day summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, there's only like a 36% chance that we'll all summit. It's so low. And all 11 people summited because of this moment when these young people started to contribute, started to help, started to notice. And then everyone wanted to start to be at the back. And so we all started, and so every time, and the guys did everything. Thank you, I got chills too. I'm getting chills thinking about it. The guys did everything to separate us because because when you do the final summit, they want to put the strong people together and they want to put the weak people together. And so they were always trying to figure us out. So what would happen was this, you know, as Judy started to sort of fall away a little bit, and because some of the team would move ahead, then I'd send Warren Lance up ahead and we had this code. And people would say, oh, I need to pee, whatever. And we would start to create situations where Judy could catch up. So the entire time, so every single day we got into camp, we would always be about, and I swear, we would be, you saw the photographs on that show. Mm-hmm. We were like, maybe 12 inches apart, and we had our poles, and we would sing into camp every single night. And that spirit raised everyone up to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro against every single odd. And it started the moment the youngest person found a way to help other people, right?
Oh my gosh. Chills. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Such a powerful speech I remember you giving. Just so beautiful. So let's talk about being able to emotionally bounce back. So I know, you know, sometimes we get knocked down, rejection, maybe some stuff's going on in our environment, or maybe we've had some drama on our team. no story, no problem. Can you elaborate on what that means and how we can learn to overcome those things?
Well, listen, I mean, I think anyone on there, I mean, I can't see everyone's ages, but you younger people maybe haven't had the experience yet to know this to be true. You older people, you probably know this to be true, right? Is something happens and it's awful. It could be a divorce, it could be a loss, it could be anything, but your house burns down, whatever. But then 2 or 3 years later, you find yourself saying, I'm so glad that happened because it taught me so much. I learned so much about myself, or it led me down a new road, or it created a crossroads. So the fact is this, you know, when we're in the minutia, and I just made a post about this. My Instagram, by the way, is David T.S. Wood, if you want to go there and read some of the stories or whatever. But what I say is I always say all of us have superpowers, each one of you. If I was to interview any one of you right now, I would figure out your superpower. We all have them. You know, sometimes your superpower is laughter or connecting or whatever. But, you know, my superpower is adaptability, which means that whatever's happening, I can adapt to. Like this here, that's why someone asked me the other day, I said, are you bored? How can you be bored? Are you lonely? Are you kidding me? Well, I don't want those words in my life, so I choose not to, I wouldn't even use those words, bored and lonely. If you're bored and lonely, then how do you wake up tomorrow and stop that? Because you get to choose your world, you get to create that world. But the formula I always say is this, you know, events happen. And again, on my Instagram, if you want to go back and read, you'll see, I got a call one day. I was at a concert downtown, and my good friend Wolf called me, and he was on a boat. And I should show him the view.
Yeah,
right?
show us the view.
Yeah, I'll show you the view from my house here. Ready? So this is where it happened. So look, in fact, I'll tell this story real time. I'll give you a little look. So if you look over here, quite often across the lake there. So there's the lake. This is called Lake Okanagan. Can you see this good? I can't see you. So.
Yep, we can see
All right,
this.
so over there by that red house, there's a place you can, I normally camp over there on my boat. I anchor it, right? So I get a call from my friend Wolf. This is gonna get windy. And he says, Dave, your house is on fire. So look here, I'll show you this. It's windy, I know. But I don't know if you can see this. Can you see these are all burnt?
Yes.
Right? Lightning struck the top of that tree, came down, this whole mountain was on fire, right? And so what I heard was, hey, Dave, your house is on fire. So I'm at this concert, I'm with my girlfriend, and I said I went over, I said, hey, the house is gone, right? And so I talked to the bartender, I said, can I get 2 tequilas, please? And we just sat there, and we just gently drank, because I thought, you know what can I do? The house is gone. So the story is the house is burning down. But I get to accept, because I can't change it. In that moment, I can't make the house not burn down. So I've developed this muscle, which is I will accept and adapt to anything that happens to me. And I'm going to create a story around it that serves me. And the idea was the house is gone. And I truly believe that the house had burnt down, because where he was sitting on that boat and the mountain's on fire, it looks like the house is engulfed. Anyway, so I drive home slowly. And again, if you want to go on Instagram, you can actually look at the photographs of this. You can see everyone working on this, right? And here's what happened. The beautiful thing that happens when we accept what's going on. I accepted the house was burned down, drove home slowly. I get there, and all my neighbors had come out. And I have a bar around my pool. And we ended up in the pool. I mean, at 2 o'clock in the morning, all my neighbors in their clothes, in the pool. We had the party of a lifetime. It took 4.5 hours to put the fire out, and it started again the next day. I mean, it was a serious thing, because, I mean, we live in a provincial park here. But what I'm saying is that the moment, like, whatever happens to you, you know, and I'll use an extreme example. You know, if you look at Christopher Reeves, when he broke his back, Superman, right? What did he do? He woke up, and some of the best things he ever did in his life were after he broke his back. Oprah Winfrey, you know, she went through horrendous things when she was a kid. Like 9 years old, right? Abused in the worst possible ways. And look what she changed the world. So the idea is events are going to happen. What I think is one of the most powerful things we can do is to accept that what's happened has happened, and we can't change it. At this moment, we can't change it. So our ability to adapt to what's really happening and accept it immediately, and this is where the story, right? So the event, house burns down. Story is up to me. And if I have a bad story, oh my God, I've lost everything, I'm going to have a real problem. And some people who have lost their homes, you know, they've lived in, I mean, for years, they carry this burden on their back. And I'll give you an example. We had a big fire here in 2000, and there were 430 homes burnt down. And one of them was my friend, Rick. And I said to Rick that day, I said, Rick, there's going to be a day you're going to come to me and say, that was the best thing that ever happened. And you know what? He came to me 4 years later. He says, Dave, when I look back, that was the best thing that ever happened. Listen to some of the things he said. He said, are you crying because of the story? Or are you crying?
No, yeah, both. Oh. No, I'm not.
Okay. Right. So he says, you know, I had a cupboards full of clothes I'd never worn. He said, you know, the house was, we bought the house, we never designed the house. So he went through this thing because he had insurance, but they redesigned his house and they created this life that they couldn't imagine. But in the moment when it burnt down, you have a choice.
Yep.
Do you accept that it's gone? Because it's already gone. It's already happened. The car's already been smashed. It's already a write-up. So if you can elegantly behave with no story, you can create, you have so much power, because there's nothing can happen in the world that can push you off kilter. But what are we, most of us, we're in this place of what, oh my God, you know, so we move into victim mode versus this idea of empowering. Imagine you can handle everything, which you can, by the way, every single one. Look at mine. I'm trying to look you in the eyes. You can handle whatever happens to you, right? So.
Oh my gosh, so powerful. I love this. Thank you so much. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left, and this has just been full of value. And I really hope all of you understand that and appreciate this. And I'm sure you do. And you'll go and, you know, see all of these new things David's doing. But what I would love for you to finish with, David, is, you know, to talk to the person who has maybe been in a little bit and is questioning, or the new person who's sitting here going, can I really do this? Is this really, can I, like, are they serious when they talk about the money? And, you know, can I really create a life that I want for myself? What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, look at your situation today. And if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you've got, right? So the reason you're here looking is because you're either not happy. And if you look at stats, most people are, you know, who have a job, J-O-B, just over broke, are really dissatisfied with their lives. They work just hard enough so they don't get fired, and their boss pays them just enough so they don't quit, right? So it's just this awful thing. Most heart attacks happen Monday morning. Most heart attacks, right, happen on Monday mornings because people just dread going to work. 90% of businesses fail within 10 years because most people, when they start a business, they have to wear all these hats. Any of you who own your own business, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's 24/7, 365. You get paid last. Everyone gets paid first. It's trying to deal with all these things. You wear 1,000 hats. So this profession is a profession where there's 9 basic skills. And in fact, going back to my show that I launched today, Emily Vavra, one of the best network marketers on the planet, goes through all of the 9 skills you need to learn and tells you exactly how to learn them. So that would be a great place, right? So you just go to my YouTube channel. And so you can listen to those. So there's 9 basic skills that you need to master. But I would just say this, look, you know, you don't have to build this business, but if you want to be a part of this business and have this community of positive people, because we're going to love you, whether you're, you know, a platinum or, you know, you're financially free, or whether you're just starting out. We're going to love you if you're 100 pounds overweight, or you know, whatever. We don't care. We care about people. But you've got to understand is that, you know, the idea about building or designing a life have to have the right vehicle, the right time, right you. And there's just so few vehicles out there. But you are going to be bad before you're good. You're going to have to deal with thousands of conversations and thousands of rejections. And most of us don't know that. So our expectations are out of whack. This isn't get rich quick. But you can make a lot of money quickly. There are people who have done extraordinary things, but it's not absolutely normal because most of you are doing it super part-time. But I want you to look at that residual income, whether you've made $15 or $500, and start to understand the power of residual, because this is called leverage. Because, you know, if you were to sort of think about this, and I don't know how many people are on your team. Do you know how many people are on your team currently?
6,200.
But you're getting paid. And how many of those 6,200 did you personally enroll?
Oh, maybe just 250.
So
but my entire downline is
yeah.
From people I've enrolled. Yeah.
So from 250 people, how many people did you speak to get to 250 people?
I would have lost count.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands.
Mm-hmm.
So you spoke to thousands of people. 250 said yes. And from that, you're getting paid on 6,000 people, right? And I can tell by the call that they're all over the world. So you built a global business by having endured thousands of no's, right? And so this is what's exciting about this, right? And you know that right now. So what's been your highest month today? Can you tell me?
Yeah, absolutely. 10,000 was my highest month.
10,000. And what were you doing previous to this? What was your previous profession?
I'm a high school teacher. And then when I
Okay.
moved to the States, they pay them not so great. So I went into retail management. People, I
So
love
let's say a high school teacher, you went to school for 4 years?
Yeah, 4.5.
4.5 years you went to school,
Yep.
right? And how long before you felt like you were a good teacher?
A couple years.
Couple of years. So
Oh,
six and a half years before you felt good. And what was the maximum you could earn as a teacher? In that,
100,000.
in which country?
Australia.
Okay, yeah, that you're paid high. I mean, I love that, because most teachers here are paid 60 or 75.
Right. I mean, that's exactly what happened when I moved to the States. They told me I would start on 29,000. I'd been to school for 4.5 years, and in my mind, that.
Yeah, perfect. But what I'm saying though is now, how many years are you in?
Building since 2014, 15.
All right, so let's say 5 years, 6 years.
4 or 5 years. Yep.
All right. So what's been the greatest thing? Take the money aside. What's been the change in you as a person? Let's say that if we just look at the money as a separate thing, because obviously you're making money and it goes up and down. You just told me your team's exploding.
Yep.
But you probably last year, your team was down because everyone was down last year, which is how it works.
Yep.
And some of us don't realize that. There's the natural ebb and flow of business, and including our business. But what's the greatest things that you've learned that have impacted you as a person, a friend, a lover, whatever? What is it?
You know, this is going to make me emotional. And this is why I'm still here, is because of this. And it's because, I mean, the greatest gift is, I don't know if I could pin it down to one thing. It's my mindset. It's my happiness. That's what it is. It's my happiness. And like you said, it's a change in the way I've thought, and it's my relationships are greater. I see opportunity, and I'm just so thankful. Gratitude.
Yeah. But look at your energy. I mean, anyone watching you, and I can see what people are saying because I can see it coming out, but look at how you radiate this. There's something in you. So let's say it's taken you 5 years to discover a path. And even if you hadn't replaced your income, but you were close, are you happier?
1,000,000%.
Right. Do you feel like you have control?
Absolutely.
And where you think 5 years from now, based on what you've learned, where are you going to be financially 5 years from now? What do you think your income is going to be 5 years from now?
I would say 5 years from now, over between 500,000 and 700,000 a year.
Yeah. So, because your wealth can only grow to the extent you grow yourself. And we get paid in direct proportion to the amount of people we help. So those new people listening, you know, it's a journey. It's a real journey. I ask those questions not knowing the answer. I don't have to know the answer because I trust this process. Network marketing and Isogenics is the greatest vehicle on the planet Earth. It's hard. It's called network marketing, not net sit on my ass marketing, not net, flaky marketing. It's called network. We have to work. But if we treat it like you treated becoming a teacher, and look, you went and got a student loan to become a teacher, and you owed money when you finished your degree. In here, we get it like we pay $29 and we have a global business, and that's our problem. If we forced you to go to school for 4 years and not talk to anyone and pass exams before you could and take a student loan, most of you would treat this like a real profession. And that's the problem. If you wake up tomorrow and you say, hey, I'm going to become a professional network marketer because look in my eyes, this is what it looks like. Someone who's a professional that looks like this, they sound like this, they live in a world like this, they create their world. So I just think for that new person, just trust that you are in the right place, and it's going to get hard. You're going to want to quit. You're going to think about quitting, and then you got to plug back in and look around, because a lot of you will never go. You won't go to Nat and say, hey, I'm quitting. You're going to go, you know what? You're going to fizzle out. And when you quit, no one's going to notice because you're just going to slide away, and you're going to, what are you going to do? Go back to what? Because if you want a life by design, right vehicle, right time, right you. And look at the vehicle you're in right now, whether it's a job or a career. And if you're an electrician, you're going to make $60,000 a year for the rest of your life. If you're a teacher, it's going to be 60 to 100 grand a year, whatever. Every profession has a number. And when we choose a profession, what we don't realize is that we choose a number with the profession. right? Regardless of what it is, we choose a number with the profession, but no one tells us that. They say, hey, you've gone to school for 4 years and you're learning how to be a teacher for 3 years, and you're going to get $60,000 for the rest of your life. No one says that to us, but we accept that as normal. We get into this and we look at the end of our first year and we go, oh, I've been working part-time. I've only made $5,000. You should be like, oh my God, I made $5,000 part-time. And look at the people I've got around me. Look at the friends I have. Look at the look at my body. Look at my health. Oh my God. And if you understood this, you would never, ever, ever quit. I don't care if it takes you 15 years to get to a point, right? But 15 years, look what's going to happen. You know, your income is going to be, like you just said, 5 years from now, you can see clearly 750. When you started Isagenix, there's not a chance in hell that you ever thought you'd make $750,000 a year, because your mindset was set as a teacher or a sales clerk, which means that you were programmed to only earn 100 grand. So you had to grow yourself big enough to make more. That's what, don't piss me off.
Oh my gosh.
Drop the mic. Poof.
Yes, so good. Look,
I think
you
the beer
guys.
kicked in.
Yeah, the beer dropped, absolutely. If you're yelling at your kids, keep your microphone muted. I am going to unmute everyone because I want you guys to give a big celebratory cheer for David. Please thank him. Let him know I'm going to unmute you all. David, thank you so much. And before I do that, hold on, you guys. I just want to personally thank you. My team knows, for me, I really see you as someone who's just been a phenomenal mentor. So thank you for that, because we have an incredible team because of that.
Well, thank you for the invite. And I will remind everyone, if you want to go to Instagram or Facebook, I don't promote, but I want you to listen to Emily Vavra. I'm going to be putting out a show twice a week. On Wednesday, we have Lisa DeMayo. Next week, I have Susan Sly. We're going to have I have a relationship expert. We've already done 4 hours with just money, talking about money, and 4 different people who have 4 different perspectives on money. So I really want you to embrace the show, My Extra Mile Conversations. Share it. Go on to YouTube right now and subscribe, and help get this message out, because I know that the way I talk to people and bring out of them, that I can help your people transition once they start to really listen to these experts, and that will help them. So sorry, I just want to.
No, thank you so much. It's so valuable and so much free value. Thank you again, David. We just adore you. We so appreciate your time. I'm going to unmute everyone. Give a big chee-hoo or thank you.
Thank you.